Pets Add Life, your guide to the latest in pet trends, products, and the joy of the human-animal bond, with Kristen Levine and Chris Bonifati, powered by the American Pet Products Association and Dog TV.
All right, welcome to another episode of the PAL Podcast. I am Chris Bonifati, joined as always by the perfect and pristine Kristen Levine.
Is that my theme song? My
yeah,
theme music?
You got a little jingle in there now because I rhymed. So now you have a sitcom jingle. It's like they play the music whenever your character appears.
Always wanted one.
Yeah. I feel like you would have a jingle. I would be more of like a Cosmo Kramer. Like when I appear, I'm kicking down the door.
Yeah, you would.
I've got something in my hands that's just inexplicable.
You would. That's great.
But hey, we may not be a sitcom, but we're a pretty awesome podcast here to bring you two great stories, two fantastic guests, two wonderful products. And at the end, we're going to answer two of your questions. And listen, we may not have the family dynamics that a classic 90s sitcom may have, but, we've got animal spirit. We've got the gumption. So stick around and see what we got going on for you guys today.
Kristen and Chris present Storytime.
All right. We are going to start off with our two stories for Storytime, Chris.
Okay.
And I'm going to go first. I've been on this cat roll lately with cat stories.
You have been. I've noticed.
Yeah. And I don't know, just coming across some interesting cat stuff. And I thought I'd shed some light today on some interesting cat behavior that happens either in a multi-cat home or cat colonies or anywhere where there are multiple cats cohabitating. So according to research from Cornell Feline Health Center and the International Cat Care, there are some interesting reasons behind the behavior of synchronized grooming. So this sounds like a new Olympic sport. So this is when like two cats are laying, next to one another or near one another, and they both start grooming themselves at the same time. And this is because it helps to maintain group harmony in a multi-cat home. It commonly happens between bonded cats. Duh, like that makes sense. And they also said that it's sort of like when humans yawn, it makes the other human yawn. So like when one cat starts grooming, the other cat starts grooming. I don't know, kind of interesting. It also shows that they feel that the environment is safe, and it demonstrates trust among the cats. Now there's also another kind of grooming where it's called allo grooming, which is mutual grooming when cats groom each other. And this is usually because they're showing trust and affection for one another. It strengthens social bonds among cats, as you would imagine. And it also helps to reach hard to reach spots. So if you have maybe a bigger cat overweight and you notice that another cat's grooming, maybe he's just trying to help him out a little bit. I don't know if that was a joke, but that was in there. That was actually part of the article I read. So I don't know. Take what you will from that. Have you ever noticed that? I know you don't have two cats, but have you noticed that before?
I don't have two cats. I haven't had two cats in quite some time. One of the things that I noticed, I lived in a dog and cat household, was the dog was a puppy when the cat was already an adult. And the dog actually picked up on a lot of cat mannerisms, which is absolutely adorable. Definitely built that sense of community and sort of adopted some of those traits based on what the dog saw. So I could only imagine that the community amongst cats is even tighter knit than that. It's very interesting the way animals express themselves.
Yeah, it is. What kind of story do you have today?
Yeah, well, mine's interesting too, but a little different. So here's the headline. I'm going to read the headline word for word. Lab-grown meat goes on sale in UK dog food. Interesting. So that is, that's the whole story. Let's move on.
Did you say lab-grown?
Yeah, lab-grown. So this is, the supplier is Meatly. And their technology, they claim, could eventually eliminate farm animals from the pet food industry and reduce carbon emissions as well as the use of land and water in meat production. They say you take you take cells from a single chicken egg, and from that they could create basically an infinite amount of meat. Where they said it's essentially the same kind of process as making beer, which I don't know how I'm going to get that image out of my head. But it's a similar like fermentation and catalyzation process with these cells that basically allow them to develop the way that they would have developed into a chicken. So it's pretty incredible. It's definitely different. I don't know about the health benefits or non-benefits of lab-grown meat, but with sustainability being on people's minds, let's be honest about something. Before we as people start eating the lab meat, we're going to be feeding that to animals first. We all know it. We're afraid to say it, but we all know it. We've already stuck a lot of animals with insect-based diets, which is like a thing they want people to do. I won't, but it's weird. I don't know how to react.
Yeah, I think I'd want to taste it first. I'd want to know, does it actually taste like chicken or beef or whatever?
So I don't know if I've ever had lab grown, but I've had like the Beyond Burger and Beyond Sausage and stuff like that. And I won't say it tastes like meat, but I will say it tastes good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So we'll see. Look out. If you're a Fido from the UK, make sure you check the packaging on whatever people buy. You don't know what they're feeding you anymore.
Beyond the Leash, exploring the untold stories of pet passion and professionalism.
Wow, I am so honored to introduce our guest. This is really exciting. He's a pioneer in dog training. We're absolutely thrilled to welcome Dr. Ian Dunbar. Now, Dr. Dunbar is a world-renowned veterinarian, animal behaviorist, and dog trainer who's really revolutionized the way we train and understand our canine companions. He holds a veterinary degree from the Royal Veterinary College in London and a PhD in animal behavior from UC Berkeley. Dr. Dunbar is best known for creating the world's first off-leash puppy socialization and training program called SIRIUS Puppy Training, which transformed the way pet parents raise and train their puppies. He's also the founder of the Association of Pet Dog Trainers and has authored numerous books, including Before and After Getting Your Puppy and How to Teach an Old Dog New Tricks. Dr. Dunbar's positive reinforcement training methods have shaped the way dog trainers and pet owners approach behavior, focused on rewards rather than punishment. And I could go on with more of your accolades, Dr. Dunbar, but welcome to the Pets on Life podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's a real honor to have you here. So let's just talk about back in 1982, you created SIRIUS Puppy Training, which, as I mentioned, is kind of a game changer for the way we train puppies. Can you tell us what led to that innovation?
I can. My wife said that we were in Bodega Bay and she gave me a cigar, said, Ian, go on a rock and smoke this and don't come back till you can tell me how you're going to bring money into this relationship.
Awesome.
And I thought, well, probably should be to do with cows or dogs. I thought dogs, I've been studying them for 10 years. I know, I'll start a puppy school. Because back then you had to wait till they were 6 months to a year old to get them into class, and you just did obedience drills. So the neat thing about the puppy school, the syllabus was infinite. You see, when you were doing an AKC obedience class, it's like you're taking an exam, but you know the questions beforehand. Like, when I was a vet, say when we had the anatomy exam, they said, it's going to be the dog stifle. Don't worry about any other species or any other joints. Well, we wouldn't be qualified. But with puppies, you've got to be prepared for everything. I mean, how did you know 2 children in the family were to go hunting for Malamute with high-powered water pistols? Dog didn't like it.
Right.
But you've got to prepare the dog to live with people. And that is a never-ending quest. And so there's an easier way. We make sure the dogs have bite inhibition. So this is what they learn naturally with each other if we let them. If we let puppies play with each other and dogs play with each other on a regular basis, they will never hurt someone when they bite them. Think about it. When you've seen a dog fight, you think, oh my God, they're going to kill each other. There's not a nick. How do they manage to inhibit the force of their jaws when under such over the top, duress, because they have bite inhibition. It's so hardwired in dogs to learn this. So anyway, it created something absolutely wonderful. My favorite two things to do are to teach a puppy class, which I'm doing on Saturday. And actually, my son is subbing for the trainer who's away because he wants to become a puppy trainer, and I'm his assistant. It's the most amazing
thing. I love that.
And the second most wonderful thing is lecturing to people about animal behavior, temperament, training, and what have you. But you know what? Everything I did in 82 is now gone. We're going backwards in training. It's so sad. Positive reinforcement training is just going down the toilet. And we're not creating what we did. And it's why now trainers spend all their time dealing with anxiety and stress in dogs, because essentially by neglect, the dog training profession has created these problems because we're not teaching puppy classes anymore. I just did a survey of dog trainer demographics around the world, like mainly US, England, Australia, and found that only 15% of trainers are teaching classes at all, mostly on leash, and very few puppies. So off-leash puppy classes are a rare bird. Instead, they're dealing with, individual consults, mainly on Zoom, dealing with stress, anxiety, and aggression. It's like, it makes you want to cry. Everything I created in 55 years is gone. So what I'm doing now is the exciting bit. What an opportunity to redo what I did in 82. What I'm doing.
Well, it's just like everything else. It's just a reboot of something from the 80s.
Yeah.
But talk to us a little bit about, positive and reward-based training in puppies. What makes your style superior? Why are you trying to bring it back? What problems does it solve? And how exactly are you going about training those puppies to ensure success in a home?
Yeah, I don't actually use words like superior or better.
Don't worry, I use them for you.
Yeah, no, I use effective terms like this is easier, quicker, and more effective. So firstly, it comes down to training puppies. That what spurred me into this, you asked, why did I start with? We had a Malamute puppy, Omaha, and he was like 3 months old. And that's when I was asked to earn some money. And so I rang around about 50 dog training schools to get him in. And they said, oh, no, he can't start till he's 6 months to a year old. And I said, what? Are you insane? You see, people forget, even though I'm an academic, I'm a farm boy and I know common sense. My grandfather socialized every single animal on the farm, the horses, the cows, the pigs, the sheep, the chickens. Do you know what it's like as a kid when you're 4 weeks old and you got short trousers to be attacked by a flock of chickens pecking at your calves? No. So he socialized and trained all the animals on the farm because he had common sense. So I thought, this is insanity. You can't let a dog grow up and become fearful and aggressive and then try to change it. Right. I mean, that's what people are trying to do now again. No, you got to prevent the problems. How easy is it? Oh my God, you just have puppy parties at home. So I'm doing all these massive vet conferences now. I mean, VMX and WVC, 30,000, 15,000 vets telling them, you must tell owners. Well, you don't tell them, don't take him out till he's had his shots. That's like a don't, instruction. It's do. What should they do? They should be having puppy parties at home, inviting 100 people between 8 weeks. I'm serious. A minimum of 100 people is what the Open Paw minimal health requirements for puppies states. 100 people in the first month at home, and you tell everyone, bring 2 friends. Outdoor shoes remain outside. Totally safe from parvo, and they pet the puppy and they play with it and they hug it and they look in its eyes. You see, the only difference between hugging and petting and restraint and examination in the vet clinic or the groomer is the dog's perception of the people. Well, if all these people come to your house and they're hand feeding all these treats, puppy says, I love this. I love strangers. I love people, instead of growing up and not liking them, which is a natural process. People forget this. It is natural for puppies as they get older to become progressively more scared and wary of the unfamiliar people, unfamiliar dogs. So that was a no-brainer. The only way we can do this is by preventing the problems. But when you use that word positive reinforcement, it's like a word like doctor or trainer or lawyer. Everyone thinks these are all the same. That positive reinforcement is positive reinforcement. No, there's 6 basic techniques of positive reinforcement, and some are much quicker than others. Some are much easier than others. Some are more effective.
What
So
are
I
those
picked
6?
the one I grew up with, which was the easiest, the quickest, and the most effective. And the thing about measuring effectiveness, we're looking at behavior that's observable, therefore quantifiable. But people don't do it. They just talk about the nature of it. Oh, what you're doing is bad. It's nasty. It's inhumane. We are stress-free. Yeah, but you're not training the dog. You understand
What are
I'm
those?
saying?
What are those 6 categories of positive? Of
The 6
quote,
techniques?
positive?
Well,
Yeah, 6
lure
techniques.
reward training is the one I use because it's the quickest way to teach behaviors on cue, or to teach English as a second language, which is what we want, right? Then we can use our words as instructions to let the dog know exactly what we want it to do. And we can use these words as punishments. Because when we define a punishment in behavioral sciences, it doesn't even mention that it's unpleasant or nasty. It just says it's a stimulus that causes the immediately preceding behavior to decrease in frequency. So let's say the dog's jumping up. I don't say, well, turn your back on the dog, let it extinguish, or teach a DRO or DRI. I say, just tell him to sit. End of problem. Dog's chewing your iPhone, get your chew toy. It's what I told my dog now. You know, it just came. It's not my dog, actually. It's my ex-wife's. And she left to Spain with 6 dogs and left this one with me for a while. So he was going to jump in my lap, which would ruin my street cred, right? So I said, it's long, go to your bed. So he's lying on his bed. So we use these words to communicate to the dog. And when they're really useful is when the dog goes off track. Because people think that punishment is stopping the bad behavior. No, it's not. It is stopping the behavior you don't want, but starting the one you do.
Yeah.
The single specific behavior. So the dog's barking. I say, Rover, shush. Don't even raise my voice. So that's my favorite. Then comes all or none reward training, which is tailor-made for that out of control, inattentive, rambunctious, rumbustious adolescent dog. You just wait until it does what you want. Well, I'm looking for one of 6 behaviors. It sits, it lies down, it stops bouncing, it stops barking, it looks at me or approaches, or it looks cute. And I just look at the dog and ignore it till it does one of those things. So that's what we use with shelter animals. And if you train a shelter dog to look cute, he's going to be out of that shelter in a flash. Then comes auto-shaping. So shaping is changing behavior bit by bit. Most people use clickers. I never do. So auto-shaping is the owner sets it up. So, for example, you only feed it in hollow chew toys. That's what the dog has now. Let me go and steal it. I'll bring it back. Hang on.
Sure.
Oh,
Gonna get a demo.
That's a chew
yeah.
toy stuffed with food. And that's what's keeping this dog lying down quietly on its bed while I'm talking to you. So you stuff a chew toy and it's magic. Within 2 days, if you only feed a dog from hollow chew toys, you reduce barking by 90%.
Wow.
And you reduce activity as measured by number of steps taken by 90%. So this is what I call quantifiable, observable data, because my little bark activity counter counts this. We get a baseline, then we change the way we feed them. So feeding in bowls is not good for dogs physiologically or psychologically because it steals their raison d'etre. See, what would dogs do in the wild? Well, if they're not sleeping, they are scavenging for food. Because they're not strict carnivores like cats. Everyone thinks, a dog eats a rabbit a day at 5 p.m. No, it doesn't. But I'm back at 5. You're a little early at the moment. I dine at 5. No, dogs nibble throughout the day. And they're looking for grass, different veggies, fallen fruit, slugs, worms, feces is a favorite, especially feces. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
You think about it, because it's semi-digested vegetarian matter. See, the dog can't digest the grass properly, but if they eat horse poop, now it's semi-digested. Whatever. Anyway, I go on. Then we have the most famous one at the moment is clicker training.
Right.
Personally, I think it's destroyed a lot of the magic in training because, well, it replaced praise with a click, for heaven's sake. Training is now this clinical, impersonal, complicated, time-consuming procedure, which owners think, what are we doing? I don't understand it. Why don't we just take, like, if you go to my websites, like, say, SIRIUSPup.com, go down to the last video, look inside our classes. You'll see me go up to a puppy in a puppy class 5 minutes in and say, hey, puppy, come here, sit, down, sit, stand, down, stand, luring it. Then you see me come back 5 minutes later. It's all in this little video. Now I do it with no lure. That puppy has learned 10 minutes into class to come and sit, to lie down, to sit up, to stand, to lie down, and to stand up from down from verbal cues and hand signals. So that's why I like lure reward training. It's so quick and it's magic, but people don't get the food out of their hands, so it turns into bribing.
Yeah.
But people don't understand there's many different positive reinforcement techniques. And so in, my latest book, Barking Up the Right Tree, I analyze these objectively in terms of, what's effective, what's quickest, what's easiest, because I don't like saying, that's inhumane, because that's a value judgment on my part. And if you actually ask me, what do you think is inhumane, Ian? My answer would shock you. I would say most of what the dog training professions are doing right now, the humane profession, the kennel clubs, the veterinarians, they aren't giving the right information. And I consider that as inhumane if you let puppies grow up to be scared of people, yet they have to live with us. So I don't use those terms. I only talk about terms which I can present factual proof. And if people disagree with me, I say, right, $100 on the table. You pick a dog for me, you choose one for yourself. Let's train them, say, to do a 1-minute stand stay. I'm going to win because I always pick the quickest technique for the job. And I use shaping a lot, but I use it for a specific purpose. It is not a generalized sort of companion dog training technique. It's very good for teaching behaviors not in the dog's normal repertoire, of which there are very few, but where it excels is if you take a behavior that's a moment long, like a glance, I can turn it into a 1-minute watch me. Or if you take a quick sit and then run away, I can turn that quick sit into a 3-minute sit stay by shaping it, building it by baby steps.
Wow.
I'm sorry. You ask a question. I'm not going to stop. You've got to stop me. You understand that, right? So we need a sign here.
Well, I tell you what, you are fascinating to listen to, and it makes a lot of sense. We are coming up on time. So can you tell us where we can get your books? Tell us about your website so that our listeners can get more information.
Well, the most useful book by far is the recent one. There's not a dog training book like it. It's called Barking Up the Right Tree. Obviously, a lot of bookstores, but Amazon is the quickest way. My website's Puppy School, SIRIUSPup.com. But the huge website, which is the deepest dive in dog behavior and training, is actually the largest online resource for dog behavior and training information, is dunbaracademy.com. And it's got hundreds and hundreds of hours of video of dogs playing, dogs being trained. And what it did, and I'm so glad because of what's happened in dog training in the last 10 years, that it was my son's idea. He said, Dad, I want to digitize Daddy's brain. So he followed me around for 3 years and he videoed every seminar that I gave. And that was the nucleus of this. So we have about 100 hours of seminar up there.
Wow.
On dog aggression, dog-human aggression, dog-dog fighting, how to solve it in one session, how to teach a dog park recall. A dog that won't come in the dog park takes one session to teach it, because I cherry pick what are the quickest ways to do this, because I understand owners and they want it yesterday, like me with electronics. I don't want to understand it. I just want it to work.
Right.
Okay. And that's how they feel about their dog. And so that's what I try to give them: the easiest, quickest, most effective, and most enjoyable way to do it.
Well, that all sounds absolutely amazing. I'm going to check it out for sure. And if you're listening, check out Dr. Dunbar's books. Thank you so much for taking the time out of what I'm sure is a busy schedule and an early morning out there in California. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah,
These
thank
are
you, Dr.
precious
Dunbar.
hours out of my early morning. Move slowly, but I thank you so much for asking me on. It was you asked good questions. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Whew, he's a smart guy. He
And delivered with a British accent too, which is always
love it.
makes people sound smarter and more put together and better.
Yeah.
So that was a real treat.
It's fun to hear all the different philosophies in dog training, but his resonated with me a lot because a lot of dogs that were adopted during the pandemic, including Tulip here, have gone on to have some challenges, and that makes sense because as a puppy she didn't get much interaction at all. So I'm definitely gonna check out Dunbar Academy.
And if you want info, you should be getting it from the dog trainer who trains the dog trainers. Like that is. And he's probably even beyond that. He's probably the dog trainer that trains the dog trainers that train the dog trainers. So, that is the pinnacle of information that you're going to get.
Pets add life.
We are thrilled to welcome Dr. Holly Ganz to the show. Dr. Ganz is the Chief Science Officer and co-founder of AnimalBiome, a pioneering company dedicated to revolutionizing pet health through microbiome science. With a PhD in microbial ecology, Dr. Ganz has spent over 20 years studying the intricate relationship between microbes and their animal hosts, revealing just how crucial gut health is to our pets' overall well-being. At AnimalBiome, Dr. Ganz and her team have developed cutting-edge gut health tests and microbiome restoration supplements that are transforming the way we approach pet nutrition and digestive health. Millions of pets suffer from digestive issues like diarrhea, vomiting, constipation. I'm sure all of you listening are like, that's my animal, that's mine. So we're gonna talk about all that stuff today with Dr. Ganz. Doc, thanks so much for joining us today, taking some time out of your day.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Of course. So let's just pretend that Chris understood all the words I said in that introduction, but there may be some people out there who didn't. Let's put some of this into layman's terms when we're talking about microbiomes and gut health. Give us, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Well, so for one thing, we are all covered in a cloud of microbes, and that includes bacteria, fungi, and other tiny little things like viruses that live in and on us and on our pets. And so I like to think about it like, pig pen in Peanuts, right? Like we're little walking clouds of this. And the main place we have lots of microbes is in our gut, right? Like it's the digestive system. And that's a way in which, right, we take in food. That's how we get nutrients, right, and water. But it also can bring in pathogens, right? And so the body has to protect against invasion. And this community that resides in the GI tract, in our gut, helps to protect. It both helps with digestion and nutrition, but it also helps to protect against invaders.
That's excellent. Now I understand.
I always understood, but now I understand better.
Dr. Ganz, so what inspired you to start AnimalBiome, and how is it changing the way pet parents approach their pets' gut health?
Well, I first transitioned to really thinking about the microbiome in pets after I did a postdoc over at UC Berkeley, and we were looking at wildlife disease and how it was transmitted in the environment. And I started studying the microbes in soil, which are really complex too and kind of similar. Like our gut is a little bit like the soil for our bodies. And I had adopted a herding dog who came to rule my life, and I fell in love with her, and I wanted to just think about her all the time. And I thought, I think the tools we're using here might be useful for our pets. And I didn't really fully realize how valuable that would be, right? But I just thought, I want to think about dogs, and I think that what I'm doing might be useful. And as it turned out, when I did a project on cats, I was looking at cats and dogs, and just to see what does your cat's gut microbiome look like, and like, why should you care about it? And I did a Kickstarter, and people sent me in their cat's poop in a little tube. And I discovered that there were so many people whose cats had terrible diarrhea, and they were on this medical merry-go-round of prescription diets and antibiotics and steroids, and they were still living with terrible, terrible diarrhea, which is like, right, it's awful to deal with. And then it's terrible to see your pet suffering from that. And it's the same with dogs. And so they were like, please help us. I know that you're not saying that you know something useful yet, but like, we want to help you with research. And so that's sort of what our origins were.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so funny how in love with your dog you are, that you were like, I'm gonna fix all your problems with my science, which is how a lot of people end up in the pet industry.
Yes.
But so for folks listening at home who may be thinking, hey, maybe my animal has a digestive health issue. What are some of the common signs, like something that might key them off and say, oh, maybe I should have my animal checked out. Maybe this is a little bit beyond just normal behavior.
Right. This is great. I mean, really what we want to do is empower people to be able to identify these things and help them, because you can't see the vet every day and they're too busy, and it's, and so one thing, like there's several, like we have some stool charts, but like looking at your pet's poop, right, is a way to sort of assess a bit of what's going on. And it's like not intrusive to them, right? Let's not get a blood sample. Like they're donating that poop every day, and you can look at it. You can assess like its consistency, like if it's too soft or too firm, that's telling you something about things going on there. So you want it to be like firm, but not too firm. And then also like color, right? Like it's kind of gross, but like color also can tell you something. Like if it's really green, it can mean they're eating a lot of grass. It was freaky the first time I saw really green poop, but it turned out that dog was just eating tons of grass. It can be really yellow if there's a lot of bile acids in it. So we have some charts to help people with this, and so there are tools on so Dr. Google is helpful. And so also, like, are they eating? Right, that's always a big sign. Do they seem to have react to different foods and be sensitive to them? That can be also an indication. I think what we've been realizing is that a lot of people think their pets have food allergies, but it really might just be that their microbiome is not in good shape. And so then they can't properly digest the food that they need.
I have a question. Can a pet that's experiencing stress or anxiety, can that affect their microbiome?
Definitely. And I would just sort of add on that, that there's, it's sort of controversial. Is IBS or irritable bowel syndrome a real thing? But everybody who's had it themselves or has their pets have it knows, right, that stress can trigger, right, soft stools.
Sure, yeah.
Yes. And stress can have many effects on the body. Absolutely.
I've experienced many of them myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when the gut is, not in good shape, right, we feel it. So there is a real connection between the gut and the brain. It's not certainly when I started going from soil to poop bacteria, I didn't think about a gut-brain axis, but it actually is really real. And it sort of makes sense when you're you go with your gut, or you feel uneasy, you feel it really viscerally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your company has two really cool tests. One is doggy biome and one is kitty biome. And these are gut health tests. So how do the tests work, and what kind of insights do pet parents gain from them?
Yes. So basically it involves taking a small sort of pea-sized amount of poop and putting it in a tube. We send you gloves and a box. And you put the tubes in a little rack. And then I know there's some people still think they're kind of small, but we sort of feel like we've gotten the best solution, that's something that can go in the mail. So you put the poop in the tube, screw the cap on, shake it up, and then when there's two of them, they go in a little tiny Ziploc and then goes into a bubble mailer that you pop in the mail. And then it goes to us and we like scan it. It has a little barcode on it. So we can scan it in and we let you know we received it. And then we actually are doing our own DNA sequencing in-house, which allows us to, so it's, it takes a few days to do it, but we're working really hard to try and get people's results as fast as possible. And we promise them within like 1 or 2 weeks, we'll get the results back to you. And then you can look at it in our web app. And then we also have a PDF report that you can download to share with people. And some of the things that we find are, so there are some pathogens that can flare up, like E. coli is a normal resident in the gut, but it shouldn't be too abundant. If it is, it's really can be promoting inflammation and cause problems. So we have a list of sort of potential pathogens that we look for that are good to address. And for whatever reason, E. coli is not included on diarrhea panels, the standard ones, which it really should be, because everybody thinks it's normal, but it's normal in very, very small amounts. So it's not normal to be like inflamed. And then, so we sort of look at the pathogen part of it. And there's some other pathogens like C. diff or Campylobacter or like sort of known food safety organisms that can occur. And then we look at core bacteria that are associated with healthy dogs and cats. And we've spent a lot of time looking at healthy samples to try and understand what should a healthy animal have and what does it mean if they're missing it. And so then we usually recommend that either they do like a gut restoration program to restore bacteria that may have been killed off from antibiotics, or maybe mom didn't give them the right mix to begin with. Maybe mom had some issues. And, but we do know most of the core beneficial gut bacteria are really sensitive to things like antibiotics. And so it's helpful to restore things after, antibiotics are life-saving. I'm totally like appreciative of them. We just need to be able to like build things back up afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that I've always picked up on with the antibiotics. For me personally, like when I take them is I go get like a little like probiotic pill right after to try and rebuild things. So it's great to know that there's options out there for animals, it seems like too, to help them, sort of restore that natural gut bacteria.
That's right. And what we've like in the beginning, when we first had probiotics that like doctors would say, just go get a probiotic, get the one with the most in it. But now we're realizing, it depends on which bacteria are in the probiotic. So now they're sort of, we're in this place where like all these new things are in development. And so we basically, the most probiotics are like lactobacillus, like yogurt associated bacteria, or there's Enterococcus faecium is great, but it's like most dogs, even if they're sick, have it already, can be useful. But we've got some new things coming that are actually like the bacteria in cats and dogs that they need, that are a bit different. So I say probiotics are a great tool, but they aren't species specific usually. If that makes sense. Like they weren't coming from a cat for a cat or for a dog for a dog.
So Dr. Ganz, let's say your pet is healthy and you want to take some preventative steps to maintain, a healthy gut microbiome in your pet, what would you recommend?
Well, definitely diet, right? Our diet is foundational to our health, and that's true for our pets. And fortunately, like they have to eat what we give them. So it's really on us to make sure that we give them a healthful diet. And it's probably easier to do that for your dog than it is for yourself. At least for me, that's the case. It's hard to pass on those French fries. Right. But so avoid the fried foods, right? Too many carbs. It's true for dogs too, and cats. So cats are obligate carnivores, so they should be having a high protein diet. So sometimes some of the kibbles have a little more carbs than we like, and that can be problematic. So there are some like fresh diets that might be good options there, or canned foods are good options for cats too, that tend to have higher amounts of protein. So we tend to think about the macronutrient amounts. Sometimes cats and dogs that are fed a raw diet, which can be very beneficial. Some of them don't have enough fiber in them. So sometimes we recommend just adding like a quarter teaspoon to the meal of fibers, because that feeds some of these good bacteria.
Well, great. Dr. Ganz, we are coming up on time here, but I want to give you a chance to shout out the website, tell people where they could go, learn more about both gut health for their animal, for themselves, and learn more about AnimalBiome.
Thank you. Yes. So you can find out more at animalbiome.com. It's like animal, ANIMAL, and then BIOME. AnimalBiome.com, and where we have our gut and oral actually microbiome tests and supplements that we think are really revolutionary and can really make a big improvement in, and especially cats and dogs suffering from digestive as well as skin issues.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
For whatever reason, I'm hungry now.
You were geeking out on that science. I know it.
I know. I was restraining myself. You got to let the experts preach.
That's right.
Because, it's really something I don't know much about. It's true. I'll take that probiotic after a round of antibiotics because I knew that was a pro tip. But it was interesting what she said about there being sort of like almost like designer probiotics, like based on what you need. Scientists are amazing. Support science. Be a scientist. Don't be a podcaster. Be a scientist.
The product of the week.
All right, Kristen, it's time for the product of the week. And I think I'll kick things off here with the brand name is Little Chonk, which is hilarious. But they are like a hiking and outdoorsy product type thing, and they've got the Little Gulp Ultimate Doggy Water Bottle. That comes in all these bright colors. It's really fashionable. But what I really like about it is it's one of those ones that you assemble and kind of create like the little drinking pool that they can drink out of. But this one has a carbon filter on it. So,
get out.
because what ends up happening with like your standard ones or your knockoffs is the dog's spit gets into the mix.
Right. And then it washes back into the bottle.
Yeah, exactly. And this is designed to kind of prevent that. So the water sort of stays out and the water that goes back in gets refiltered. Only $35, really fashionable, comes with a little hip clip and all that kind of stuff. So, check it on out. The color is definitely what caught my eyes, but when I saw it was filtered, I was like, wow, that's for $35. That's a pretty good price for a filtered water bottle.
Yeah. And I've never seen a filtered water bottle for dogs. So that's really cool.
Part of the family.
All right. So I found a new toy for dogs. They're called Fireballs and they're from a company called Katie's Bumpers. And what they are is they're kind of cube shaped and they're made from 100% USA made virgin fire hose material. So I guess virgin fire hose material means they haven't fought fires, but I guess they had some extra hose left over. So that's the exterior. And then they're stuffed with recycled plastic that allows the toy to float. And what's really cool is the way the hose pieces are designed around the cube, it allows you to stuff little treats inside the grooves so that this can kind of become an enrichment toy for your dog. Also, because it's shaped like a cube, when you toss it, it bounces irregularly, which is really exciting for a dog. So great play toy. It's got squeakers inside and it's super, super durable because of course it's made of a fire hose. So, apparently I think I mentioned it floats in water. It's great for, in the snow, in the sand, wherever you play with your dog. And it comes in a small, medium, and large size. So check those out. We'll put the link in the show notes to the, what did I call them? Fireballs. The Fireballs.
This is where you insert the Pitbull song.
Yeah. Fireball. Dum, 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 dum. Yep.
If I keep going, we'll get sued.
Q&As.
We have arrived yet again at my favorite part of the show. That's right. We're going to answer 2 burning questions from our audience. And I know what you're thinking. How do I get Chris and Kristen's attention? Well, A, you could either throw tiny little rocks at my window and hold a stereo over your head in the rain. Or B, you could submit a question on petsedlife.org/podcast. Scroll on down to the bottom of the page. See that beautiful web form powered by HubSpot. Fill that out, submit your question, and you might hear it answered. But here's the catch. Here's the catch. If you are feeling as brave as a pet parent handling their pet's poop to improve their natural gut health, you can record a voice memo and we'll play your question live on these exact airwaves. But without further ado, I know it's an incredible opportunity that we get to every now and again, but it's always a treat. So participate, people, participate. Let's see, Kristen. I've got a question for you from Lisa from Boulder.
Hi, Lisa.
And Lisa asks, my dog is very friendly, but gets overly excited and jumps on guests when they come over. I've tried telling him off and rewarding him when he sits, but he still gets too excited and forgets his manners. What is the best way to train him to calmly greet people without jumping all over them?
Yeah, this is a really great question, Lisa. And it's a common problem. Matter of fact, I was on TikTok last night, scrolling through some training videos, and there was a dog trainer talking about this very issue. So this is good timing. So first of all, it's a good idea to keep your dog on a leash when guests arrive. That's going to give you the most control while you are kind of retraining your dog not to jump. They're jumping up on you because people usually, instinctively reach down and pet the dog. But some people really don't like when they're being jumped on by a dog, obviously. So try the leash. You can even consider using a baby gate to prevent the dog from getting to the person. But I like the leash idea better because then you can kind of control them jumping up. And then also you want to kind of practice this whole 4 paws on the floor rule for your dog. So you only, and the best way to do this is to enlist a friend or a neighbor to help you train your dog, so that the friend or neighbor comes over and they have some treats in their pocket, and they should not treat the dog until he or she stops jumping up on them. Just completely ignore them. Talk, have your neighbor talk to you. Just the dog will feel ignored. And the minute the dog feels ignored and stops jumping up, then she can treat him or her. So that's going to take some time, but I think it helps to enlist a friend or a neighbor, because you can do this yourself, but your dog is going to get a different kind of excited when a guest comes over. So give that a try. You can obviously, talk to a dog trainer, or even your vet might have some tips for you. But you really want to reward the good behavior and ignore the bad behavior. Sometimes just saying off or no, they're still getting attention. So they kind of see that as a positive in a weird way, but that's just how they think sometimes. So good luck with that.
That is a great answer, Kristen. I think our guest, Ian, would be quite proud of you for that one.
Oh, I hope so.
All right, what do you got for me?
Oh, sorry, Chris.
It's all right.
I forgot.
It's okay. I forgot too.
All right. So, Chris, this question comes from Daniel in Seattle. Daniel says, my dog gets really excited in the car. He whines, pants, and sometimes even refuses to get in the car. I want to be able to take him on more road trips and make the experience enjoyable for him. So what are some of the ways I can help him feel more comfortable and relaxed during car rides?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my answer is pretty similar to Kristen's about the training. It's a very similar concept where you want the car ride to feel enjoyable and like they're getting rewarded and not like a punishment. But other than that, I would say make it comfortable. I think a lot of people default to putting their dog in the back seat, but back seats are built for humans. They're not really built for pets. So if you've got an SUV where the seats can go down, sometimes like dog bed in the back of the trunk is better for the pet than the pet seats. Try and position them in ways where they can see out the window. That will help with motion sickness, and dogs just like looking outside, don't they? And of course, there are all sorts of both natural and chemical products that you could give your dog. I would start with the natural, some of these things to help alleviate motion sickness. And my guess, because most dogs kind of like the car because it's an adventure. They know they're going someplace and it's probably going to be fun for them, unless it's the vet, in which case they feel betrayed. But my guess, without knowing any other context, is that the dog has motion sickness and the dog doesn't feel good when it's in the car, so it doesn't want to go in the car. So if you can make up for that with some treats, if you could find a way to limit that motion sickness, you might find a change in behavior.
Excellent answer. That's exactly what I was thinking, Chris. First thing that came to mind was motion sickness. I wrote an article about this last year, and 40% of dogs actually experience motion sickness. And a lot of times we as dog parents don't recognize it as that because they're not vomiting. But you don't your dog doesn't have to vomit to be feeling really crappy if they have motion sickness.
It's same with people when you think about it. I can't remember the last time I threw up from motion sickness, but I mean, I had it yesterday. Like, so,
Oh no.
It's just, if I'm not driving, it's over for me. I'll get motion sickness just from being in the car. So yeah, know what? That's what you gotta teach your dog how to drive, because let the dog drive, it won't get motion sickness.
That'll take care of that. Kind of like
I think
the cat.
on that note, we gotta end the show. I just told somebody they should let their dog drive their SUV. We gotta end the show there before we get sued by Pitbull and by Kia and whoever else is gonna sue us now. For the things we say on this podcast. Thanks for sticking with us. This has been the PAL Podcast. We're here every Tuesday. We're all over social media. Drop us a follow. Find us on Dog TV and their new Amazon Fast channel. All that great stuff that you all should be doing as our viewers. And if you're not, I don't know, man. I guess don't.
Step it up.
Yeah, step it up. And we'll be back here next Tuesday. So until then, be kind to yourself. Be kind to your animals. We'll see you in a week.
No bones about it. We'll see you next week.
No bones about it.